Hey everybody, I'm Nick Von Walkerbarth and you're listening to the Von Dubcast. I like to do a little bit of intro where I talk about what's happening in my life, a little bit of background on the guest, what I felt going into the interview, what I thought of the interview, and just whatever else is going on. If you'd like to jump right to the interview, you can skip to 7 minutes. If not, we have one sponsor and we'll get right into it. Today's episode is brought to you by Freshie in Grand Prairie. Freshie is it's kind of like a mixture between fast food and health food. It's quick, it's easy, and you get delicious, healthy food. It's a pillar in my journey to try and be healthy. It's usually sometimes the only thing I do that's healthy in a day, but it's always there for me and I really enjoy it. If you're ever in GP, please stop by and check them out. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 118 of the Von Dubcast. I'm currently sitting in my childhood bed trying to bend the mic cable in a certain direction that doesn't create a buzz in the headphones. This is just the pinnacle of technology here at the Von Dubcast. We are really just on the cutting edge of what 2022 has to offer here. But other than that, I hope you guys are all doing well. I know I shouldn't be bringing up more things I can't tell you guys about, but we're kind of in the last week before big things are happening. I'm just, like I said, here in Slave Lake for a couple days, seeing some people, and then hopefully recording a couple podcasts. Got a couple lined up, or one lined up for sure, and hopefully I can maybe squeeze another one or two as well while I'm here in town. Then it's back off to Grand Prairie. I have a lot of things to pack up and to get ready for what is to come. And then, after this weekend, you guys will probably start to hear, like I said, follow the Von Dubcast on Instagram. It's probably the best way to follow along with the happenings. I know it's a little bit cryptic, but as soon as you see and I can talk about it, you'll know exactly why I didn't talk about it until everything's in place and kind of not counting your chickens until they're hatched. But I'm really excited. So, I got a great episode with Denique. I don't know if you can hear my little puppy in her collar here. She just came to cuddle into bed with me. I think my dog made a couple appearances on the podcast, I think, on this one, and her cat definitely was making herself heard, so it's definitely a pet-friendly podcast. We talk about lots of things. This is Denique's second time on the podcast. A lot about spirituality and sexuality and ego and masculinity and femininity. Oh my goodness, my dog is just snuggled right in here. You just heard that I was talking to someone and you needed all the attention. Hey, oh kisses, oh kisses. Yeah, no, this is most definitely a pet friendly podcast. It's so funny because this is probably the, I don't know, fifth or sixth time where there's been a guest and they're just embarrassed, like, oh, so sorry, my animals are making noise. And I just like, I could not care less. I love dogs. I love cats. I want all the puppies and all the kitties on the podcast. Oh my goodness, guys. If you could just see the little suck that is just cuddled right up to me right now, all over my notebook where I have everything I need to talk about on this intro, all the links that I need to include, and she's just got her big fat head right on top of them all. Hey? Oh goodness, look at that belly. Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys. I know you guys don't need to hear this. What am I getting back to? So following along with the social medias, if you guys could do that for me, I'd really appreciate it. Go and follow Denique, Curious Inkling, I think Denique Ali, and I think there's one more page. There's 3 pages, one for kind of modeling, one for personal stuff, and then one for art. They're all great follows. Check them out. And then also near the end, we got to have a great conversation on tattoos, which is something I'm fascinated by. I don't have any myself. I'm kind of a giant chicken, as you guys might have picked up since listening to a couple episodes. It's something I really want to do. I think it's going to take a long time, and I'm going to have to meet somebody that I really trust, and it'll be a process. I doubt I will go to the grave without a tattoo on my body, but I also doubt that it's going to happen anytime soon. But I was able to ask a lot of questions and get a little bit of the meaning behind Denique's tattoos. And funnily enough, she's entering herself into a competition for a photo shoot with Inked Magazine for her tattoos. So the voting actually opens up tomorrow when this episode comes out on Monday. Tuesday is actually when the votes open. I'll probably include some photos for this drop that really show off her tattoos. And if you think you enjoy this conversation, you enjoy who Denique is as a person, or you just enjoy her tattoos, please stop by and give her a couple votes. I haven't actually looked into this. I don't know if you can vote as many times as you want. I was kind of assuming that, but I probably should double check that. But if you can't vote more than once, just do your thing. If you can vote a million times, vote a million times. I mean, can't do enough to help out the good people in the world. They're out there. You just got to search for them. I think Denique's one of those people. So hope you enjoyed this conversation. I really enjoyed it.
I think I already said all the social media stuff, the following, the like and subscribing, all that fun stuff. I'm sure you guys probably know better than I do. Yeah. Other than that, guest suggestions, if you want to send them my way, anything else like that, any input, feedback, just let me know. I always enjoy hearing from you guys, and I'm so thankful that you guys give me your time and listen to me. So if you guys can continue doing that, I would love it. Hey, dog, let that go. Chase. What am I going to do with this one? She just looks so guilty when I get her in trouble, and her little tail just wags, and she knows I'm in trouble, but if I just look cute, then daddy won't yell at me. Oh my goodness. I love this dog. Yeah, it's funny when I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, but they hadn't heard me be around my dog. And they're like, man, I've never heard you talk like that. I'm like, oh, are you kidding? I'm just constantly baby talking with this little muffin. That's how I talk to my puppy. Hey, Bubs. Hey, Bubs. Oh my goodness. Sorry guys, I know I'm getting distracted. Half of this intro is just me cuddling my dog, but you guys can all just sit there and be jealous because she's the cutest and the bestest, and I have been loving life having this dog back. So yeah, that's the only bad part. I'm so excited about what I can't tell you guys about what's coming up, but it means being away from my pup for a little bit. So that's going to be tough, but it'll all work out, and I'll be just as happy to see her when I get back. Oh, maybe I'm saying too much. Yeah. But that'll be the little cryptic message I'll leave you guys with. So yeah, follow me on social media, follow Denique, enjoy the episode, pass it on to a friend. If you know somebody that is into this type of thing of what we conversate about today, please pass it on. That's how the podcast spreads. It's all word of mouth. You can pay all the Facebook ads and Instagram ads and all that bullshit that you want, but really what spreads a podcast is word of mouth and people passing it on to a friend that would enjoy it. So if you guys could do that, I would love it. If not, no worries. Just enjoy it. And other than that, just have a great week, and I will see you guys on the outro. Bye. Beautiful. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for coming back upon the Von Dubcast. How was your couple months in between since I saw you last?
It's been pretty good.
Yeah.
The project that I was working on has finished, so I've been on my hiatus for Christmas break. I have no idea what I'm going to be working on coming up, but that's kind of film life, and I'll figure it out when I get to it.
Are you getting lots of art, like personal art done in the hiatus?
Not as much as I'd want to. Honestly, I've been sleeping a lot. I didn't realize how I exhausted myself.
Yeah.
So I've definitely taken the time just to rest, decompress. Haven't been around too many people, so it's kind of chose to self-isolate over the Christmas holidays.
Yeah. Would that be your first Christmas that you spent away from family?
Actually, this was the first Christmas that I've ever spent like completely alone.
Wow. How was that for yourself?
You're not going to believe this. It was actually a really great day. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I did something, I don't know if anyone really agrees with it, but I decided to take a little bit of mushrooms and microdose for my Christmas. Yeah. And I ended up cleaning my apartment before the trip really went on. And I did some painting and just kind of relaxed and enjoyed the view from my apartment, and just had a really mellow Christmas.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I hear so many really high level and people that I look up to that talk about microdosing mushrooms, and it's such an interesting thing to me. And I feel like that's something that's going to be further along my journey, and I need to make so many steps before I ever get to that point. But I've just heard so many people that I really admire talk about it. I'm curious to ask you just personally, like, what do you get from that? Like, what, in your own words, what do you think that does for you?
For me, because I basically live with depression, and I have for a really long time. Psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin, is actually really good for regulating your emotions if you do it correct.
Right.
There are definitely ways to ruin the experience and to not get the benefits. But when you do it on a microdosing level, you do it in a safe environment, a controlled environment. And I have done it a few times before, so it's not like a new experience for me. So no fear, no stress when it comes to it. I do find that when you are more comfortable and safe with yourself, that it's easier to deal with psychedelics. If you have stress and anxiety, say you went through a breakup, you're going through a lot of emotional turmoil, I do not recommend psychedelics.
Yeah.
I think that it would be best to wait until you feel more grounded in yourself.
Right.
But for me, what it does is it actually helps me kind of reconnect with my emotions. I have a tendency to numb myself, to just kind of disconnect from the way that I feel. And I actually hadn't done it in like 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's not a regular thing.
Yeah.
I painted somebody's house, actually. I painted a galaxy ceiling for them. Or
Cool.
I helped, and the way that they paid me back was with some psychedelic mushrooms.
That's a pretty good deal.
I did it just out of fun to paint the house. There was actually no reason for me to receive anything. I didn't expect it. So when they gave it to me, I was like, that's a lot of mushrooms. I don't know if I need all that. I don't know when I'm going to have it. So I've been hanging on to them since May. And I hadn't taken it. And I was like, okay, it's Christmas. I have nothing to do. I have no one to see me. Maybe I should just enjoy myself. And I had been alone for like 2 weeks. Just kind of doing my own thing. Trying to like declutter for the new year, get rid of stuff that I don't want anymore. And just kind of de-stress. And then I was like, oh, I need to like have fun, let go a little bit. I've been too serious, I think. And when it comes to my job, I take my job so serious that I don't really allow myself to rest. So felt, I'm probably not going to see anyone on Boxing Day. I'm not going to go shopping at the mall or anything. So
might as well.
I was like, oh, I'll eat a little bit and see how it goes. So I tried it out for the first time, and it was actually a really, really nice experience. It was really mellow, nothing too crazy. I felt very grounded and happy. So I reconnected with my happy emotions. I feel like it's easier to express the happiness after, because I feel like that's the one emotion that kind of eludes me most of the time. As an artist, I don't know if you've seen some of my work, but most of it is not happy.
Yeah, I'd say.
It has like different emotions in it, but happy is not one that I would say is a general theme. So that, I guess, it's like part of the pursuit of happiness, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting to hear you talk about psychedelics and the state of mind that you need to be in, just with myself and lately what I've been going through and the holidays and stuff. And I found myself doing the same thing, but with psychedelics, like smoking weed to kind of escape and to run away from some of those feelings, and in recognizing that in myself, and not just that, but food and my Diet Pepsi addiction and all these things. It was just kind of and being very like, I don't even know how to frame this into one thing, but just being slovenly and not working on the things I need to work on, like giving myself a free pass just to be lazy kind of thing. And so much of what I was running from, it was a bad cycle, because it was me being mad at myself for being lazy and not doing the work that I need to do, puts me in a bad place where I can't get the work done because I'm so depressed. And then, I would wait the whole day.
You beat yourself up, and then you're like, well, now I feel bad. I can't do it now.
Exactly. And then you feel so badly. And then the
you
only
do something to ease that feeling, whether it be weed or I ate a lot of desserts. I did a little bit. Actually, at the end of my trip, I ended up baking. As soon as I came down and I was more grounded, I was like, you know what? I have ingredients to bake. I'm going to bake something. So I baked a little cake for myself. And then I've been eating that.
Nice. If I took an attempt at baking sober, fucked up, I think it would just not work out very well. I know myself. It'll probably end up, I'll miss half the ingredients or something. I'm not too good at following directions.
Definitely chose the recipe that I've done more than a dozen times, because I was like, I need to make sure I know what I'm doing. This has got to be a tried and true experience.
But it's funny to just hear the two different sides of that, of kind of using psychedelics to reground and kind of letting it get away from you and not using it in the right way. And I think that's something we talked about in our last discussion of just having a relationship with everything and understanding that so that you can evaluate, is it serving you or not? And I think that's something that's come to me in the last 2 days since I got home from holidays, because it was escaping being around family and stuff. And that would allow me to be busy enough not to deal with what I was feeling. And then at the end of the day, when everyone went to bed and stuff, then I'd smoke and I'd not deal with it that way. And then to come home and to realize it and let it all hit. And it was nice to have that first night of alone and being away from people. That was nice. And then the next day it really hit me of just realizing what I've been running from and all these things. And then to realize how badly I needed to really turn some of those relationships around. Like the food one was really bad. I just recognizing, oh, I need to really lock this down. I need to drink more water. Right. And I need to maybe dial back the smoking and all that. And that's another fun little trip to go on too, because now you go from one extreme of just babying yourself with all these different mechanisms that shield you to kind of dropping them all away. Like I haven't smoked in a couple of days. I've only really been drinking water. I'll limit myself to 1 pop a day. I've been trying to eat healthy, and to feel that tidal wave of everything I was hiding from kind of hit you at once and not to have those defense mechanisms. I kind of feel a little bit like just like being in a little tiny boat on a rocky ocean, just getting messed up these last couple of days. And it's, it's one of those things where I have to kind of ask myself of like, am I like, where do those relationships, where's that middle ground? Because this doesn't feel great either. And I think I need to go through this to really understand that and to find where that point is, because I think if I don't take away those coping mechanisms, I'll never be able to find that medium. But it's just that these last couple of days haven't been the funnest, just losing it all and going completely out on your own and just feeling everything so heavily. And a lot of that depression and a lot of those feelings just, it's been a fun couple of days, not to just throw that all on you. It just seemed like the
builds up and the coping mechanisms,
mm-hmm.
like in some way, maybe at some point it was actually helpful and beneficial
for
to
sure.
you. It actually served its purpose
Mm-hmm.
at some point,
mm-hmm.
but now it's making you feel tired and groggy and you can't focus, and
mm-hmm.
it makes it difficult to deal with your regular day-to-day tasks.
For sure.
Because the first thing, instead of doing the hard thing first, you end up going to the easy thing that's tried and true. And and then once you start doing that, I find that it's easy to just keep going down that
path. Sure. It's slippery.
Like at the beginning of the holiday, not gonna lie, I was sad that the show was over. I was I was really loving that project, and everyone was such a great crew. Honestly, I can't say enough nice things about the people that I was working with on Virgin River. It was like a dream come true, and I can't wait to work on the next season. But in the meantime, there will be something else. Mm-hmm. I just know that it's not going to be as like drama free, even though it's a drama TV show. The crew behind the scenes was very drama less, which was actually really a breath of fresh air. So once it was over, some part of me felt like, I'm missing a piece, you know, like I'm like, damn, like I deal with a lot of my stress and a lot of my frustrations. I bury a lot of like my main coping mechanism is to work, is to go to my job. Like it's a 10-hour day. I technically work in construction, so I'm physical all day for 10 hours, and it allows me to release my stress. I'm not a physical person. Yeah. You probably remember in high school, I was like in gym class refusing to be a participant in like literally everything. I was like, I am a wallflower. Please do not include me. I don't want to talk. I don't want to do things. Just leave me alone. I'm not here because I have to be. But now I recognize like, okay, maybe I don't like being the center of attention, but I need a physical job for me to deal with my stress. And it is a high stress environment, but I love the controlled chaos of it. But I was definitely sad, and I was eating all kinds of sweets and desserts because that was like, how do I deal with this empty hole in myself that I normally fill with this exertion at work, with my communication with my coworkers. And so I did turn to food, and I would start to eat more, like it was not healthy stuff. And I could feel my body being like, can you not? Can you please not drink some more water? Like
Mm-hmm.
at work, there is filtered water and I drink it all day. But at home, I've just been putting off getting a water filter and I don't drink the water because it's not good.
Yeah.
So I'm like dehydrating myself because I'll drink a whole pot of coffee instead. And it's a vicious cycle until you realize like, hey, this is not okay. I'm not okay. Something has to change. If I want to be a better person, I have to do better for me. This isn't for somebody else.
Yeah.
So at some point, you know, like I can't be waking up at noon and I can't be going to bed at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Because at some point I am going to have to go back to work and I have to be there for 6, 7 a.m. So I have to transition myself to being healthy. If I'm not eating correct, if I'm not drinking enough water, I can't function at my job.
Yeah.
And so it's important for me to transition out of that slump and get myself back up. And I actually feel like the psychedelic mushrooms helped me kind of reconnect with that and be like, hey, these habits are not really good for you. You're not actually enjoying this. You're pretending to enjoy this because of the temporary satisfaction that you're receiving.
Yeah.
But there's no long-term satisfaction from this.
Right. And that's so hard to see in the moment. And what's so funny to me is, for myself, I can't speak for you, but a lot of times it's psychedelics that shows you those things, right? Like it's easy, like I said, to use them as an escape too. But I think a lot of times, specifically with weed, like if I smoke a bit and I'm there at night and I'm thinking about my day and what I did and if I earned it, and a lot of times that's when those things come up of, hey, like, are you living the right life? Are you like, is this eating habit? Is this drinking habit? Are those serving you? Is it just a temporary thing, or do you need to make wholesale change? And it's funny that something can function in kind of both of those frames, where it's on the one side can highlight and show you kind of where you're getting off the path, and in another side it can kind of be that thing that sucks you off of the more general path of like what you need to be doing with your whole life, not just those little specific things that it can kind of highlight. It's odd that it functions in both ways.
Yeah, well, I kind of see it as, there was a really great quote from house musician, and it says, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So no matter, like, there, you know, like drinking water is great.
Yeah.
But drinking like a metric ton of water is not good. You know, like it's not the fact that you're drinking water. It's like the fact that you're trying to drink a ton of water. It's not the fact that you're doing psychedelic mushrooms. It's the fact that you're trying to run away from your issues by doing psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah.
So it comes down to, what is the intention behind the action? Right.
Yeah. And I feel like that's where I've been slipping lately, is my intention hasn't been. And I think for myself, I'm very good at lying to myself too about that intention. And you can get down that path by, you know, telling yourself certain stories about why you're doing things, and oh, it's just because of this or it's because of that. And sometimes you just need that wake up call to realize that, hey, these, whatever intentions I've been telling myself I've been doing for like the last 2 weeks to a month, I think they might be a little bit fraudulent. And I think I might need to just, like I said, take a break to evaluate that, because they're not going to all be fraudulent. There's probably a lot of truth to those reasons. The best reasons and the best lies to yourself are always have a little bit hint of truth in them. That's what makes you believe them. So in taking that break, it's good to do that. But I think just what I'm feeling right now is just the pain that comes along with it. And that's part of the journey too, right? And like to cower away from that is just to go back into the escapism, right? Like that's what that mechanism works as.
Pain is a part of life. Like when you're experiencing pain, it's kind of important for you to look at it and be like, where is this actually coming from? Like what is causing the pain? Like pain doesn't happen for no reason.
Right.
What it does is it tells us that there's a problem and we need to fix it. And if you just kind of like cover it up, that's not fixing anything.
Yeah.
That's just hiding from the problem again.
Right.
Like there are ways for you to kind of like look the pain in the eye and experience it and use that as like transform or transmutate the energy into something else. For example, like I have a lot of tattoos. Tattoos are not painless. It's a painful experience. But if you want to sit for 4 or 5 hours for a tattoo session, you need to be able to sit through the pain.
Right.
And I feel like life in general is a very painful experience. And I had a lot of like emotionally painful experiences pretty early in my life, which is probably why I can handle the physical pain to the degree that I can now. But I've learned to transform that abundance of emotional pain into the ability to handle physical pain through different life situations. And now if an emotionally difficult situation comes up where it can be really painful, I find that because I was able to kind of sit through it and experience it and allow the pain to happen, to kind of surrender to it, but not in a way where I just gave up, but in a way where I was like, this is part of the process. Like if you get surgery, you have to, like, you can take the painkillers, but at one point the painkiller will die away.
Yeah.
You will start to feel the pain again, and it will let you know, you will be like, I need another one because I'm not done healing. And so the pain is the reminder that there is healing going on, or there is healing that needs to be done.
Right. And I think that's what I've been struggling with lately, is to see there's so many different things that I know are causing me pain, and it's hard to evaluate and give weight to each one because I'm so good at lying to myself, right? Like I know a huge piece of it is my frustration with the world and how things are going right now. And just feeling like my stance and my understanding of the world and how things are working does not match with what is happening out in the world and the way you're treated. And I know that is painful, and there's not much I can do about that. And then there's a lot of pain that I'm feeling because of, like I talked about earlier, being depressed and not being able to do the things I need to do to reach my goals, and then beating myself up about that. I know that's pain. And I know that there's pain, just I'm also going through, ending of a relationship of 4 years and that pain too. And there's so much of it.
These are not little pains. These are not little pains.
Exactly. And I think it's tough for me because it's easy to blame like the bigger ones that have less to do with me, and to blame, I'm just frustrated at the world. And I truly believe that, and it feels that way, but I know myself, and I know that that's probably not 100% true. And it's probably that you
have control over how you respond to literally absolutely everything that happens.
Exactly. And I think it's just one of those things where it was hard for me to do that sorting out. And this is what these last couple of days has been, out of just, let's just sit in it and feel all these shitty things. As much as it sucks, you're going to have to do it at some point. Let's just sit in it and try to evaluate that. Where is this coming from? And what can you do about it? And it's tough being in that state of depression. I'm sure you've felt this before, where it's just so tough to do anything. And like your brain is in a fog. And it's so funny to me because
honestly, over the holidays, I was going through the same thing. And the only thing I wanted to do was get stoned and play video games. And at some point I had to tell myself, you know what? I just worked so hard for the last 6 months that if I want to play video games, I owe it to myself to not beat myself up about it, and just be grateful for the fact that I can have a few weeks off from work in between to just play video games and smoke weed, and then do a little bit of art in between, do some cleaning. Like, don't take it so hard and so personally, because the thing is, we need rest too. We need breaks. We need fun. And even though there's so much going on, depression makes it really easy to beat yourself up. And it could be like a huge list where you're like, I haven't done anything. I haven't even touched this list. And so obviously it's not good for me to just like continue to play the video games and then like not get another job. But it's also good for me to realize this is actually something that I did as a kid to de-stress. That maybe I'm de-stressing right now. And maybe that's okay. Like I shouldn't be so hard on myself to say like, no, you shouldn't be playing video games and wasting all your time. You should be painting and being productive. And it's like, I should be, but I'm not inspired, and I'm sad, and I'm just gonna allow myself to sit and be who I need to be right now. And right now, I need to be a 12-year-old kid playing video games, and I live alone in my own apartment, so I don't have to hear anyone else. All the bullying comes from myself. It comes from me being like, you haven't done enough. Whereas like in the past, I would always live with someone and somebody would be like, excuse you, get off your butt. I need you to do this. Where now I'm the one that says when the dishes need to get done, when the laundry needs to get done, you know, like when any chore needs to get done, I'm the one that's in control. And that's been honestly a saving grace for my personal healing journey. Allowing myself to have the freedom to do the dishes whenever I want has actually been one of my favorite things of living alone.
It's the little things.
It's the little things. It really is. But don't beat yourself up, like especially over the holidays. And I feel like especially like not this Christmas, but the Christmas before was really sweet and intimate with my brother and his wife. We had a really lovely like get together. There's the three of us, super, super cute and lovely. And so this year was like, I knew I was going to be spending it by myself. And I had intended to go to Japan. However, that did not work out. In the future, her and I we decided to postpone. It was too hard to get a visa in time because they kept closing applications, opening, closing. So I was not actually able to get everything processed in time for me to go. Also, the Japanese government was opening and closing the border, and I was concerned if the border was closed when I was there, if I was able to get back. And so I didn't want to take that risk. Her and I decided it was not safe for us to pursue this, to just force it. So she was super sweet and understanding. It was like, no, we'll do it another time when it makes more sense. Right now, I actually feel like it was really important for me to take this time alone because it gives you time to reflect, like, what have I been working on? Where do I want to go? What are the projects I'm willing to work on? Like, who have I been and who do I want to be? Kind of like a recap of the year.
Yeah. And in doing that, did you come up with any answers? Did you find anything concrete that you know going forward that's who you want to be or things you want to create? Or is it still kind of a fluid process of just kind of getting everything in order so that you can do that in the future, of just kind of processing everything you've been through so that opens you up and lays the playing field for you to make those choices and be ready for it when those opportunities come in the future?
There are a few plans in action. I don't feel ready to talk about it yet.
No worries.
Want them to be completely ready before I throw it out there. However, I started doing the single tarot card readings on my social media. I don't know if you've seen any of them. They're not tagged with anything. So if you see it, it's because you're supposed to see it based off of the algorithm. So if you haven't seen it, don't worry about it. It wasn't for you. Like the message will show up. But I've actually found a lot of fulfillment in pulling cards and giving little bits of advice that comes naturally through my spiritual connection to source, energy, the universe, God, however you want to explain it. I've always been able to communicate with this energy, and I feel like it's always helped me keep my head above the water with depression. Kind of guides me away from going too far off the deep end. And so my communication with that comes out by the tarot cards that are presented to me. So the card kind of gives me a guidance in the direction of where the advice is coming from. And then the rest is, I don't even know where it comes from, to be entirely honest. It just kind of comes out. It's a very natural experience, but I found a lot of fulfillment in being able to do that. And I've actually had people reach out to me and say like, hey, that message really actually was exactly what I needed to hear. So maybe it hasn't touched so many people that I know personally, but there have been some strangers that have actually reached out to me to say like, thank you so much for that. I really needed to hear that.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I'm curious with the tarot cards. Is there like a tarot deck and they're all the same? Or is that like personally, do you build your own? Like, are they different? I'm very curious about it.
There are, it's 0 to 21 major arcana cards, which are basically pretty concrete. Depending on the images that are on the card, like there is a traditional card set that the meanings are fixed.
Right.
However, there have been a lot of people, a lot of artists that have made their own decks. And based off of the art that they have put onto the cards, it can change the meaning of the card. For example, I'm going to use the Lovers card. Normally, it depicts 2 women and a man. So it's actually representative of communication, but it's also representative of a choice. How do you choose to love? How do you choose to experience life through love? So depending on how it's pulled, and what other cards are pulled with it can influence the message that comes out for it. So each card has a meaning. When I do single card pulls, there's often more information that comes with the card than just original. Not everybody has this, and I didn't know that that was not a thing. I thought people would just like feel it and everyone was able to do it, but apparently that's not true. But then there's also different ways that you can pull the cards, different patterns and structures for you to have, like, this is the past, this is the present, this is the future, so that you can see this is what was, for example, this is what the problem was in the past, this is how you're dealing with it presently, and this is how you can solve it in the future. So a lot of the cards are real life things that literally every human experiences at some point in your life. Like we all experience happiness, we all experience connection, we just experience deceit and love and burden. That's another one. There's often conflict or even fulfillment. So there's all these different kinds of life experiences that we often do have throughout our lives. These are not concrete things. And a lot of people think that tarot is fortune telling, but it's actually not, because energy is very fluid. And what it's saying is saying right now, in this moment, if you were to continue doing what you are doing, this is what we see. But you always, always, always have the ability to change what you're doing, to decide to take another path. There is always a fork in the road every single time you have to make a decision. So when you go to make a decision, whether it's like, do I wake and bake or do I drink a glass of water first thing in the morning? You always have that decision to make that choice. Every day is a new day. You start off fresh. And it's not just that you have like 2 choices, but you have like a magnitude of choices. You can do literally absolutely anything from the moment that you wake up. And it's up to you to determine the trajectory of your life, how you're going to carry that. So the cards are just kind of like, what they do is they ask you to look at your life in those specific areas and make you wonder, like, is this really what I want to do? Is this who I am? Is this what I'm going through? And how do I change this experience in my own life?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've had, I don't know if it was tarot cards. I had one experience with a set of cards. I don't know if they're tarot or some different kind. Within this whole other ceremony, it was a whole night that I spent with this amazing woman. She's been on the podcast before, and she did marijuana and cacao ceremony and rose. And we did all these different things. And a part of it was that she was going to do a reading. She had this deck of cards and just in the state, and there's amazing music and incense burning. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in my life. But the cards, they just looked, she was just kind of shuffling them. They're big, meaty cards, and just the tactile sound of them clicking together. I was like, oh man, I'm a weirdly autistic person. I love touching. I fiddle with everything. I just got a sense like, oh, I would love to, like, I don't know if this is personal, but like, could I just touch those? And she's like, yeah, of course. Give them to me. She said, like, shuffle and just play them. And I just played with them for a bit. And then she said, okay, just pick one. So I picked one and gave her the card and the deck back. And the card that it was something like, I don't know if it was the book or the Book of Change or something. It was right. This was like weeks before I was to quit my job, break up with my long-term girlfriend, completely change my life in so many ways. And it was just so weird. And then the reading that she gave me after was so poignant and so to the point of what I was going through in that moment. It was such a eerie experience. And then there was also a meditation that we went through after it. That was, again, one of like the coolest things I've ever done in my life. And I just, before that, had never really given too much credence to that. And I was trying to go into that night with that openness to whatever the experience was going to be, and was trying to shut down the analytical, logical side of my brain that I think prevents me a lot of the time from giving it the openness it needs to work. And I just went into that with whatever is going to happen. I have no idea what I've gotten myself into. It was supposed to be a whole group of people, and it ended up just being the two of us. And it was such a special experience that I still carry with me today. That's why I'm curious about when you brought up tarot cards. Ever since then, I've just been a little bit more open to asking questions and to learn a little bit more of it, because I feel like after you have a personal experience, it really changes how you see those things. And that was just a little personal anecdote that I have with some sort of cards. I don't want to call it the wrong thing. I might have to reach out after this.
Were tarot cards? Because
yeah,
it's not like traditional. However, a lot of tarot cards, people add their own labels to them.
Right.
So it's possible that it actually was a tarot card.
Could be. But
the Book of Change. It could have been the death card. A lot of people get really scared by the death card.
Call it something nicer. Card. Yeah.
However, the death card is it's a part of life. You know, we all experience death in some way. A lot of the time, what it represents is a spiritual death. It's an emotional death. The release of something that no longer serves you. So what it also represents is the transformation into a new beginning. It allows you to be the person that you once were, and that in-between phase before you become that person that you are going to become. Often in that time, like while you are taking time to be by yourself, in that time when you're alone is when you're actually releasing things. And the death card can often be represented by a snake shedding its skin. So you're outgrowing an old part of yourself. So you are still the snake.
Yeah.
But you are now releasing part of you that you no longer need, so that you can be refreshed, renewed.
Yeah.
You can be more vitalized. You don't feel so constricted and uncomfortable. You're releasing whatever it is that's holding you back. Yeah. So it can seem like a really scary thing when somebody pulls a card and it says death.
Yeah.
First thing people think is like, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Yes, you are going to die, but maybe not sooner than later. So don't worry about it. We're all going to experience it one day. But there's no reason to actually be afraid. Like, I feel like over the last couple of years, I don't really feel afraid of dying, and I don't know where this came from, but I definitely recognize that when I pull cards for people, that there is a very real fear of dying in people. And I had it. Yeah. I had it for a long time, and recently it went away, and I don't know what happened to cause it.
That's interesting. Though. And I think we talked about this on the last podcast we did, but just about death and how it's such an animating force behind so much of conscious beings as humans, or self-conscious beings. I shouldn't say there's lots of things that are conscious, but self-conscious to the point that they can conceive of their own mortality.
Actually, I was talking about this with my friend.
Yeah.
We were talking about caterpillars. Yeah. And he was like, well, do you think caterpillars are conscious? And I was like, I don't know. It depends. Like, what do you think conscious is? And he's like, do they have an inner dialogue? And I was like, it's a very good point, because personally, I believe that literally everything around us is conscious, because it's all a part of the universe. It all has some sort of understanding. If you go off of water has memory, it's a Japanese study where if you speak to the water and you freeze it, what you speak to it is actually very important to the structure that the water forms. If you say really awful, hateful things, if you are neglectful, is even worse. But if you are positive, you create these beautiful geometric shapes in crystals, and it's actually absolutely gorgeous to look at. Really? But if you think about it, water is in absolutely everything. It's in the air, it's in the like, whether you want to believe it or not, it's in all the materials that are around you to some degree. That the water is absolutely everywhere. So what you speak is really important, especially because you are so much water. The way that we speak to ourselves affects our physical form. I know that when I am harder on myself, my face structure changes a little bit. My hair becomes more dry. My
Really?
skin becomes more like, I don't know, I get more like reactions to different kinds of food. Whereas if I'm more kind and loving
Yeah.
towards myself,
Yeah.
you actually start to see a physical change within yourself. So
Yeah.
by assuming that everything is conscious, not everything has an inner dialogue.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting question for him to say, do caterpillars have an inner dialogue? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe I should ask a caterpillar.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because that consciousness question and where you draw that line of consciousness is so widely debated and such and so important too in so many different realms. Like I know that's something I listen to a lot of artificial intelligence experts on certain podcasts that I enjoy, and they're always asking this question about consciousness and what is consciousness, because that's a huge question that's going to lead people to try and create smart AI. Like, if you're trying to create artificial consciousness, you have to ask the question of, well, what is consciousness to begin with? And it's so important to them and to philosophers and to all these different people. And there's so many really smart people that draw very different lines. And something that has been really interesting to me lately is this idea of panpsychism. And it's that idea that everything is consciousness, that all matter, like this table has consciousness, the atoms within it have consciousness, a different level of consciousness. And as you work your way up, kind of like the what you traditionally would look at consciousness is like, like amoebas would have a little bit more consciousness and then up into like the animal kingdom, dolphins, killer whales, they're pretty conscious. And then the apex of what we've been able to see, of what we can perceive, it seems like humans, being able to be not only conscious, but conscious of your consciousness. Like that is that last step of it. And it's just different. But when you look at things like that, of just different levels of consciousness throughout the world and throughout the universe, it's a very different idea. And I really enjoy it. And I think what I love about listening to it on podcasts is you hear really smart people debate against it too. And you're sitting there going, oh, that's a really good point for it. And then they come back, oh, that's a really good point. And you can kind of just ride that wave and just take the information in. And then it doesn't mean that is something now I'm a panpsychist and I believe that, but I don't not believe it. And just to understand that is a point of view, and then to keep that in the back of your mind as you're experiencing the world, and you can see, oh, that kind of lines up with what they were saying. Like that seems to ring more true with what I'm seeing out in the real world. I just found it really fascinating.
For me, like I definitely really agree with the panpsychism, and I think that might be from my experience with psychedelics. There was a couple times where I definitely took a little too much, but in those experiences, I became aware that literally everything in my environment is responding to me. So the way that you take care of something really affects how it's going to last around you and how it's going to behave.
Yeah.
And it definitely made me feel, I was more careless with material things, I think, before, more kind of like throw it on the ground, whatever. And now I'm the kind of person that I will not put my purse on the floor because I think it's degrading to my purse, because it wants to carry abundance. If I'm putting it on the floor, I'm kind of telling it like, well, you're not really abundant.
Yeah.
You go on the floor. And so I feel like the way that you treat things that you have can really actually affect your everyday life. I lived with a roommate and they were very serious about making my bed. You have to make your bed. Please make your bed. And there was a while where I was definitely resisting, and I was like, do I really have to? Come on. Like this
it's just a bed.
I don't need it's my bed. I'm gonna crawl into it later and it doesn't matter. But he taught me that the way that you take care of everything, the way that you clean something, the way that you nurture anything, whether it's a living thing or an inanimate object, there is still the response to the way that you take care of it and the way that you are dealing with it, interacting with it. Like, yeah, you can have a table, but if you treat it poorly, it's going to break.
Yeah.
And at some point, you have to recognize that every single action that you have has a reaction. And this is really where karma comes into it. Is like, karma is not like, hey, you did something bad, so you need to receive something bad. It's literally just, you did something, that thing that you did has a consequence, regardless of it being good or bad. It has a response to what you did. Like you push something, that thing has to move, or at least it feels the pressure, depending on, there is an outcome, depending on the variables, what is going to happen. But if you are treating people poorly over and over and over and over and over, without a doubt, you are going to experience that poor behavior back to you, because somebody at some point will mirror it back to you. You are not going to get off free.
Yeah.
But it's I genuinely believe that whatever energy you put into other people, but also into these objects, that they absorb parts of your energy.
Yeah.
And so you don't need to, but I recommend that you be careful with the way that you interact with the world around you, because it is always responding to your perception of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's kind of like that, like if, like you mentioned in the last podcast, if a tree falls in the woods, does it actually happen if no one observes it?
Mm-hmm.
But if I believe that the trees are conscious, then yes.
Exactly. And that's that idea. Like there's a really, who was I? Jordan Peterson had a couple theologians on his podcast, and they were discussing religion and all these different ideas. And this came up of this idea of, when we look at history, this idea that humans are the only consciousness, and that same theory of, if a tree falls in the forest, there's no one around to hear it, right? Like if there's no observer, does it actually exist? And they were positing that, okay, well, how can we have all this history back before humans were even evolved, that we can render and we can see, tells you with the Big Bang, all this stuff. And that lends to that idea that for existence to be, there needs to be an observer, there needs to be some sort of consciousness. And if there's consciousness in more things than we observe, then that kind of lends credence to that. And I just thought that was an interesting idea. It was kind of tying science to this very ephemeral idea of this panpsychism thing. And it kind of brought it back into that realm. And I just thought, oh, that's kind of an interesting thing. And
yeah, it's kind of like the nothingness that was the universe all of a sudden was like, what if I had something? Yeah. What if I was something? Mm-hmm. It feels like that there would have been some sort of personality behind it. And I think that's why, because it's such a weird concept for us to wrap our heads around, that as humans, we were like, let's put a man's face on it and call it God, because we honestly don't know how to explain it. We know it's there. Mm-hmm. We recognize that this thing is around us, that we're experiencing it, we're interacting with it. So like, I like to see the universe as the universe is God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I don't see it as an external force that's going to punish me. And I grew up half Roman Catholic and half atheist. So my mom was atheist, and my dad was Roman Catholic. So I got like the extreme contrast of like, if you don't do that, you're going to be punished. And the other one was like, there's literally no, like, there's nothing holding you back from doing anything.
Right. Yeah. It's, yeah, I was going to say, when you're talking earlier of just about like the karma and how things happen and mirroring what you're putting out, it just made me think a little bit of like, earlier today, I was in Costco, and I was, like I mentioned, I've been in a little bit of a dark place the last couple of days, and I went in there and I was, kind of feeling that. And I'm going to be honest with you guys listening, don't tell anybody, but when I walked into Costco, they said, "Oh, put your mask on." I said, yeah, it's right here. And I pretended to put it on. And then as soon as I got in the aisle, I took it off. And that's just what I've been the last little while. I just don't want to deal with it. I just didn't want it on. And I was getting some really...
I actually noticed like guys with facial hair, dude, that would actually bother me so much to wear a mask.
So annoying. It's so itchy.
I'm glad that I don't have facial hair.
Yeah, it bugs my mustache, but it's more so just the fact that I've looked into a bunch of papers and things on masks and if they work or not, and really seems like they don't really work. And I just don't, it's an inconvenience, and I hate going along with silliness if it doesn't have a use. Like, I just have no time for that.
Fabric masks, they're saying now, they're like, yeah, well, like, obviously the fabric masks aren't working. Like, obviously.
We've known that for a long time. Anyways, but that's besides the point. I was just setting this up. But I felt like I was in there, and I was in kind of a bad place, and I was noticing all the dirty looks I was getting. And I was getting fired up about it. Just like, how can you just assume I'm a bad person? Like, I try so hard to be a good person. How can you just assume this and give me dirty looks? And then I don't know what occurred to me, but I just got another dirty look, and I just gave them the biggest grin and just like smiled at them and asked them how they're doing. And they didn't answer. They just kind of turned away and looked away, because I think they caught, and it made me laugh, and I was giggling, and then I'm laughing as I'm walking through the store, and I'm just smiling at everybody. And I'm starting to get, it's still a couple dirty looks, but the people that gave me the dirtier looks, I gave them the biggest smile I could. And I just walked through, and then that I did that all through the one set of Costco, got through, the meat aisle at the back. And then as I'm walking back through the other side, people started saying hi to me. And I noticed there was two guys that didn't have masks on, and one guy stopped me, had his kid, and he was just super polite to me and very nice. And I was thinking, if I wouldn't have made that switch at the start to change my mood around, I wouldn't have had these amazing, I wouldn't have had these amazing interactions on the back end of my trip through Costco. And it's just such a physical example of exactly just what you were saying, of that mirroring what you're putting out. And it's, a little bit more, I think you're making the point in more general sense.
To see the situation from a new perspective was what changed everything. Like you could have continued to be upset and be like, all these people are just judging me. They think I'm a horrible person. How dare they judge me? They don't even know me. Yeah. And then you have this inner dialogue that starts running and running and running, and you can go with that. Many of us do, but the fact that you chose to become aware and be like, okay, let me try a different tactic. Yeah. And kill them with kindness is that's my favorite thing. Like, I am not a revengeful person at all. Definitely have no time for it. I have no energy. You think I'm gonna come after you? No, I'm gonna let the universe deal with you. I've got a life to live. I've got my own pursuit of happiness. I've got art projects that are like coming out of everywhere. So I need to not worry about what's going on in other people's lives. And the truth is that we live in a world that is very judgmental, and not to take it too personally, because most of it is fear. Yeah. We're all scared. None of us know what's the right thing to do. Right. And we're all just literally trying to do the best thing. So the people who are giving you dirty looks is because they have a set of beliefs where they're like, I'm doing what is right. Yeah. Even though truth is, none of us really know what is right. Exactly. This whole life thing is basically an experiment for us to playground on earth. Yeah. And how you want to experience it is totally up to you. So that's really beautiful that you caught yourself. That's not an easy thing. I can tell you, there are many people in my family that would not have done that. Yeah. That they would have taken the absolute opportunity to just even start a fight with someone. I swear that you could have actually gone down a completely different path versus, if I smile at these people, maybe they won't judge me so much, and they'll recognize look, my beliefs just don't line up with this, and I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just here to live my life. Yeah. And I would like you to respect me, because I'm keeping my distance, still keeping my distance. Yeah. I do respect you, but I don't need to follow all the rules. Yeah. And a lot of my friends know me as the kind of person that I don't really like rules. No, me neither. I do bad with rules. A lot of rules are made up by somebody how long ago, and who was that guy? Who was that person that made up that rule in the first place? Yeah. No, most of us don't know who it was. We just continue to live our life like that's the truth, when we actually have no idea.
And I think that's something that's very innate, because I've been doing this for a long time. I've always struggled with rules. Even back in, junior high school, I was always questioning everything. If there was a dumb rule, when the no hats in school, I always got in trouble for wearing a hat. I don't know if you remember this, but in high school, I was always getting yelled at because I would always ask every time they get, hey, take your hat off. Why? I know that they say because it's a school rule, but why? There's my hat doesn't hurt anybody. I like to wear it. I just cannot wrap my head around that. And I found that was a niche that I could fill, because I think for most people, they don't operate that way, and the rules are just the rules, and they're going to follow. It's easier just to follow it. But I think it's important to have people like me and maybe like you that question things.
I feel it might be a generational thing.
Might be.
However, not entirely, because my mom is definitely a rule breaker. My mom is an atheist, an anarchist. She's kind of you know what? I dance to the beat of my own drum. I don't need you to play for me. Yeah. And that's definitely where I got it from. My family has a saying, I didn't lick it off the ground. I didn't find it somewhere. I actually grew up with it, and I adopted it from somebody that was very close to me.
You come by it honestly.
Yeah.
As the old saying goes. Yeah. No, that's not to change topics here, because it's something that
Sure.
I wanted to bring up on the last one and I wanted to ask you about, but I don't think I got to it. And I want to make sure I don't forget it this time. I want to ask about your
Okay.
tattoos because
Okay.
you always are getting new ones. I find with most people I know, like most of my friends that are really into tattoos, it's kind of a 50-50 shot, whether I like it or not. And always they like it. And that's what matters. But I'm always kind of like, well, that's an interesting one. But with you, I love each and every one. It seems like you just have and maybe it's because you're so artistic, but you just seem to have such a good vision for what is going to go well and how it's going to mesh with the tattoos you already have. And I'm just curious what your process is and what maybe tattoos mean to you, because I don't think we've ever gotten into like the spiritual side isn't the right way to put it, but like the non-physical side of the tattoo, like apart from
It
the
is
aesthetics.
actually a spiritual experience for me. So I don't mind that you bring it up in that way. And I really love it because I don't get to talk about this very often. So I knew that I wanted tattoos pretty early.
Yeah.
I think I was like 16 and I was like, I don't know, I see people with tattoos and I'm like, damn, I want to be like that one day. Like, I want people to look at me and be scared to approach me. And I think because I was such like a quiet, soft person, really like any kind of aggressiveness that anyone had saw from me was literally just me trying to protect myself. I'm honestly like big sweetheart lover kind of person. I'm
me too.
I just try to protect myself. That's it. But my very first tattoo was a Celtic Trinity knot. It's the one on my left arm, on my forearm.
Yeah.
It took 6 hours, so 2 3-hour sessions. What it represents for me is when my stepdad came into my life, he opened me up to my ancestry. He opened me up to healing and recognizing that I had a lot of really bad coping mechanisms that I had learned from my family because he was separate for so long. And then he kind of came in when I was 13. He had a very outside bird's eye view of what I was going through. And as he saw how my family interacted with each other, he recognized that these were coping mechanisms that could actually be very detrimental to my future. So him and I would talk about extrasensory perception. We would talk about meditation. I started to get into yoga. I started to kind of use my painting to process through a lot of my emotions. So he kind of got me on this road of like, how do I become a better person? Because I don't want to be this person for the rest of my life. I don't want to live in fear. I don't want to live in my ego. I don't want to constantly feel like I'm walking on eggshells or I need to attack the next person that's approaching me because I need to protect myself.
Yeah.
So as I was going through this spiritual shedding of all these things that I had learned from other people that were not serving me, there were different types of symbols that were helping me to grow. And because I had always admired tattoos, I thought like, okay, the first one has to mean something.
Yeah.
So the first one is a Celtic Trinity knot because my ancestry that comes from Holland is also, it's very Celtic. There are 4 different types of Celts. Irish is not the only Celt. I am technically a Breton Celt. So there's a lot of similar beliefs, but it's not the same thing. Different languages, different pieces of the culture. There are differences. I don't really feel like explaining that.
Yeah, no worries.
But I became really connected to my ancestors. There's some Viking in there as well. So when he introduced the Celtic Trinity knot to me and kind of explained to me, he lived in Ireland for 18 years. So he was very connected to the Irish Celtic culture, but he is also from Holland. So he chose to go to Ireland, and he learned so much about the Celtic culture because the thing is, the other 3 types of Celts don't exist anymore. It was basically like all set on fire, burned. Like if you think about it, it's kind of like the natives of Europe, and that every bit of that culture doesn't really exist anymore. It's all been washed out. It's all been washed with Christianity, and so most of it has been has been destroyed and taken away.
Yeah.
So the last bit of Celtic understanding that we really have is what's left in Ireland.
Right.
Doesn't mean that it's the only Celt version.
Mhm.
It just means that that's where the information is left.
Right.
So he taught me about the Celtic Trinity knot. What it is technically 3 circles, and they're
Mhm.
all interconnected. And the idea is that one represents the mind, one is the body, and one is the soul.
Mm.
So this comes back to the way that you put energy out is the way that you receive it. So if I have 3 circles, mind, body, and soul,
Mhm.
you have 3 circles as well. You and I communicating right now, our mind circles are intertwined and we are returning energy back and forth through our mind cycles.
Yeah.
If we were giving each other a hug, that would be a body cycle.
Yeah.
If we were soul, say I have a dream about you and you also dream about me, that's us connecting to a soul level. So the way this comes back to karma, the way that you exert energy is the way that it comes back to you. Celts and a lot of pagans from that area have a belief of like what you put out comes back times 3. Because you have a mind, body, and soul, it has to come back times 3. So you need to be really careful. If you're treating people very poorly, you get 3 times that energy back.
Right. Yeah.
So that was a lesson that he taught me. I think I was like 15, 16. He made me a necklace that was a Celtic Trinity knot. And then when I turned 18, at 17, I made a design of a knot. And then I have some ivy because my mom always had ivy in the house. Like literally my whole life, there was one ivy plant somewhere. So it was like a way for me to be like putting home on my arm and my skin for me.
Wow.
And as it healed, I noticed that there was something in me that felt stronger. It was almost like I had put on a piece of armor to protect myself. Wow. And so what I had done with my tattoos after that is I had looked at different parts of myself. What are the stories that I tell myself? How do I name myself Denique? Like, what is the story of Denique? What does it mean to be Denique? So on my back, I have a dragon.
Yeah.
The dragon is representative of my mother's lineage. My mom is kind of like a dragon.
Yeah.
I love her to bits. She's honestly like so amazing. But she has this really intense power about her. And so for me to represent that intensity, I chose a dragon to have it on my back.
Do you see that intensity in yourself in any ways?
Yeah, actually every year it gets worse.
Really? Yeah.
Like it gets like stronger. I can feel like
the dragon
all the
awakening
little pieces that made me like a really shy little kid. It's like the pieces are falling apart. Like whatever it was that was making me feel subconsciously uncomfortable or not being capable or whatever it was some sort of fear. I'm recognizing that they're falling away more and more. It's less of a burden now. Like I don't feel like I carry that weight.
Yeah.
And I think what I had done was I had created tattoo ideas that had symbolism specific for me. For example, the dragon has lion paws because the city that my family comes from is in Holland. And the lion is a very prominent symbol in a lot of flags. You see the lion. So the dragon has lion paws to represent the country where my family is from. I don't know how far back I have family there, but that's like my mom likes to say that she's native to that area because I recognize that a lot of white people feel like they don't belong anywhere. There's no and I think it's because we disconnect, or maybe we don't even know. A lot of us don't even know where we originally come from. Yeah. So for my mom to be like, this is our home. Like, this is where we were supposed to be. This is where we have been. So it's like, I know that there's every time I go there, I feel unbelievably at peace. Like I feel like I'm supposed to be there. So I feel very connected many cities in Holland and in Europe in general have a crest or a shield to represent the city. And the symbol for the city where my family is from in Leiden is 2 red keys that are crossed. So the dragon is holding 2 red keys. Oh. The keys actually represent the gate to earth and the gate to heaven. So for me, it's a way for me to connect with my ancestors. I'm aware that a lot of the women in my family didn't become their strongest version. That they allowed relationships to hold them back.
Wow.
And for me, this was a way for me to recognize that pattern.
Yeah.
And to not allow other people to hold me back, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's family. I'm not going to allow them, because like, my mom's a powerful person if she allows herself, but I do feel that she holds herself back. She still carries some of that burden of being judged. And I find that as I connect more to that power that's covering my entire back, it makes me sit up taller. It makes me stand taller. It makes me reconnect, and I feel stronger, because who's going to mess with somebody that believes that they're a dragon?
Yeah.
Or that they harness the energy of a dragon.
Yeah.
People can physically feel it off of you. Like if you had your whole back tattooed with some, I don't know, whatever it is that makes you feel badass.
Yeah.
For me, it was a dragon. I just felt like that would be the best way to go about it, to represent that energy, that strength.
Yeah.
So a lot of my tattoos do have some sort of connection to my story, what I learned. A lot of it, because the dragon is not done, I feel that there are pieces of that part of myself that have not been healed yet. And I kind of, what I've done with most of my tattoos is I attach some sort of pain to it, some sort of negative experience to it, whether it be a relationship or a thought process, a pattern, and I attach that to the tattoo as I'm getting tattooed.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about the actual physical part of like the actual getting the tattoo and how that fits into the whole thing.
While I'm getting physically tattooed, I go into like a meditative state. That's the only way that I can sit, is I try to just accept the pain.
Yeah.
I don't try to deny. I don't try to pretend it's not there. I sit in it and I feel it. And if it gets really bad, I just tell myself the word yes. I just say yes, 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 yes.
Wow.
Because I know that my body doesn't really like it. Your body physically listens to you.
Yeah.
And you have more bacteria on your body than you actually have cells.
Yeah.
Which means there are all of these living things that are more than what you are, listening to what you're telling it. They live off of you. And they live for you. So the way that you speak to your cells and everything that lives on top of you, which is kind of a messed up idea, but it's true. Yeah. As you speak to it, it actually responds in a way that what it's like. If I start telling myself like, I can't do this, I can't. You literally can't. You literally cannot continue to go through with it. But if you tell yourself like, I'm fine, I can handle this. Yeah. This is good. Like if you say it's not bad, that doesn't like, it doesn't understand the 2 negatives. It's like, oh, so it's bad. It's not bad. Oh, it's bad. Yeah. Because it doesn't hear the not or the no. So you need to be careful to not do things like that. It needs to be more like, I'm capable of handling this. I'm capable of finishing this. Yeah. I'm strong. I'm powerful. Like the way that you speak to yourself really determines whether your body is going to actually handle the situation or not. So the real spiritual side to the tattoo is actually the week after the tattoo. So as the tattoo is healing and I'm putting on the cream to heal it, I think about whatever it was that caused me the pain attached to that idea.
Yeah.
I imagine it healing.
Wow.
I emotionally attach some sort of really horrible experience to it, and I imagine myself healing from that. And I feel like it's lifted a lot of burdens for me. I don't
bet
know
it
if it
would.
would work for everybody, but I feel like there are definitely people. I mean, if you're going to get tattooed anyway, you might as well get something tattooed that makes you feel like a better person,
Yeah.
a stronger person, a more capable, a more, you can choose to be whatever it is that you want based off of the images that you put on your body.
Mm-hmm.
For me, a lot of it is like lots of natural things. So there's like geometric images, there's flowers and animals and symbols. So these are things that I appreciate, that I want more of. For example, I got a scorpion tattooed on my leg, and I'm not a Scorpio, but when I looked into my astrological chart, I saw that my North Node is in Scorpio. So it's actually an energy that is beneficial to me when I act in that way.
Mm.
So I realized that I had already gotten a tattoo for the thing that I should be leaning towards, which was a very nice synchronicity that came out of life.
You realized that after you got the tattoo?
After, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I liked the scorpion, and I was like my friend Chris Blanco has a tattoo shop, and I like to go to his shop, and every once in a while he's like, "Hey, I have this design. Do you want it?" And I'm like, "Yes." Yeah. So a lot of the tattoos on my left leg are all from him.
Yeah. How do you decide what you want next and where you want it? Like, I'm curious, because I feel like you have so many things that you could get tattooed, and you've clearly, by the amount of tattoos you have, like, do you always have kind of the next few in your head? Is it just like one at a time, or do you have kind of a picture in your head of where you want it to end up once you have like all the tattoos you want? Do you think there'll never be enough tattoos? Like, is there an end point? I'm just curious about how you look at it, because I've always wanted tattoos, but I'm just such a indecisive person. And I'm also a bit of a baby that I feel like I've put it off for a long time, and I need to.
It's not for everyone. Don't feel like it's not for everyone.
That's true. That's true.
I've definitely dated a couple guys that didn't have any tattoos, and I've had tattoos.
Yeah.
Since the day that I turned 18, I got my first tattoo. So I saw these guys want tattoos, and they get one, but it wasn't good, and they just did it because they thought I would like it. But that's not why you should get a tattoo.
Oh,
you
no.
should never get it for
that's the worst
validation.
reason. Yeah.
I think the reason why all my tattoos are nice is because I genuinely wanted them for me.
Yeah.
There was no point where I said, like, I want this tattoo to show this person something. Like, I don't care what you think about my body. My body is mine. I live in it. You don't live in my body. So for me, every single one, I don't have any planned other than finishing the ones that are not completed at the moment.
Right.
So the flowers and the snake on my arm, there's one more session, and the dragon on my back has one more session. That's kind of like what I plan to do, is to finish those up first.
Yeah.
And then I would like to finish my leg sleeve with my friend.
Yeah. It's amazing. I love your leg sleeve. It's so good.
Him and I keep debating. We keep like showing images and kind of trying to decide like where we're going with it. Because he started tattooing me before he had a tattoo shop. I was kind of like a volunteer canvas, and I'm super grateful that I did it. He did a really amazing job. He was talented from day one, and I'm kind of like a time lapse of his growth in tattooing.
That's
you can
cool.
see it before he was in a studio, and then you can see it after he has his own studio. Yeah. So it's and he's the boss. It's his studio. All the artists are there because of him, which is really beautiful to see somebody start like a passion that they're like, this is cool, and then see them build it to like a successful business.
That's awesome. Is his tattoo shop the one that I think it was in one of your stories where I said like, that doesn't even look like a tattoo shop. Like it's so beautiful in there. Was that his? Or was that
no.
That
was a different one. That was
okay. One. I was going to say, because I remember
Outsider Collective.
Oh, right. I just remember seeing like, I knew you were getting a tattoo that day, and then your you're talking about getting tattoos, but I'm like, well, when are you going to go to the actual tattoo place? Like, you're in this beautiful, like, I don't know, like modern cafe or something, whatever it was. And like, no, like, this is the tattoo shop. I'm like, oh, wow, that is not what I picture when I picture in my head a tattoo shop. But I guess Vancouver's got everything you could ever want in every single form.
Well, almost. They're doing their best, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
There's lots. You can find lots here.
Mm-hmm. So your Celtic knot and the dragon, those are both very meaningful to you. And then you have so many other tattoos. Do you have any other ones that really stand out to you that have a really strong meaning, or the rest kind of more smaller things that as a whole come together, mean a lot to you as a whole, but kind of on their own, they're not maybe core to who you are? I'm curious.
I feel like maybe more, because there's a lot of ornamental pieces on my leg. I feel like there's more pieces that I'm disconnected to there. However, I still would attach some sort of like emotional thing to the experience that I could process it. Whereas, for example, my arm with the snake and the flowers, I actually had my first Kundalini rising experience in March of 2021. And I had been reading about Kundalini. I had been doing yoga since I was 16. I didn't know about Kundalini at that point, but yoga kind of pushes you into that direction to figure out what it is. I have been interested in Hindu and Buddhist teachings, so I've kind of looked into that. I really love the chakra system, the different energy systems, and how do we balance ourselves energetically. So for a few years, I had been looking into chakras and how do I balance myself. I had found a book in 2019 that was about the Kundalini rising and how to get there. And I was like, okay, well, let me start. So it walks you through the different chakras, what they each mean, different foods that you can eat, different exercises that you can eat that can help trigger these experiences. And I was pretty consistent, but I was not getting the results that I wanted. And I was meditating very frequently every single day. I was meditating first thing in the morning. And I was kind of, at some point I was like, this isn't even real. I don't even know what they're talking about. This is So in the back of my mind, I would choose to eat specific foods based off of like how I was feeling. Maybe I wasn't speaking enough, so I'd make sure I'd eat more blueberries because the throat chakra is blue. When you eat more natural blue foods, there's not very many of them.
I was going to say, other than blueberries, I can't even think of one.
So it's one of the only ones that you can really eat to accentuate the throat chakra. Also, leaning back and kind of like opening your throat up allows you to open it as well. Speaking your truth is a really important, like, instead of holding yourself back and say, like, really in any situation, instead of saying what people want you to say, you say what you need to say.
Yeah.
And that's going to help you reconnect and balance a throat chakra. Many people have a throat chakra imbalance. People that don't speak have a throat chakra imbalance, and people that don't shut up have a throat chakra imbalance. So there's both sides to the two of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're doing a pretty good job of listening.
Yeah, today it must be. I don't know. Must be something I ate. Who knows? Usually I'm a blabbermouth right to the nth degree. Oh, I think you might have froze, but you froze in a beautiful smile. So I mean, hey, not the end of the world. Oh, and you're back. Look at me go. I made it back with the magic of my words.
Okay. I was like, oh, where'd it go? So when on the back of my mind, I had the different exercises, the different things that I could do for Kundalini. And I would, every once in a while, something would pop up into my mind. I'd remember it, and then I would do it spontaneously, where I still wasn't sure. Like, I was meditating less and I wasn't really feeling it.
Yeah.
I had a really beautiful interaction with a friend. And then when they went home, they left, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to meditate. And spontaneously, I had the experience.
Wow.
And what it feels like is, while you're meditating, you start at your root chakra, which is
feet,
like in between your legs.
Okay.
Like,
Gotcha.
chakra, all right? That's your safety, that's your stability, that's your foundation, that's your core of who you are. So that's where it starts. The idea is that it's an energetic snake that's coiled up in that area of your body, and it rests there until you wake it up. And when you wake it up, it weaves and it connects and it weaves up through the rest of the chakras, through the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And you can physically feel it weaving through them, and you can actually feel the different energy centers. It almost feels like vibration. I don't know if you've ever tried this exercise with your hands, where you keep your hands, like you make like a ball with your hands and you keep them separate from each other. They're not touching.
Yeah.
And I want you to focus on the space that's in between them.
Okay.
Like focus on the space between each of your fingertips across from each other, and focus on the space between your wrists to each other. All the space that's in between. You can start to feel that it kind of warms up a little bit. And if you slowly pull your hands away from each other, you will start to feel a resistance. That resistance is your energy.
Yeah.
That is you. And there are different energetic centers in your body that have different functions. So in between your legs is what keeps you safe. It's what keeps that's your stability. This is how you stay alive.
Gotcha.
The next one, just under your belly button, is your sacral. This is your creative power. This is your reason to procreate. This is your sense of community. This is your connection to the people around you.
Okay.
So that's your tribe. It's also any kind of creative expression comes from that source. Your solar plexus is your powerhouse. This is where you get your energy from.
Yeah.
Where your ribs connect, there's a little triangle bone. That's the space where
sucks to get punched there.
It's not a good time.
Yeah.
I have brothers. But that like if you are, for example, you're feeling really depressed, likely your solar plexus is off. You need to eat more yellow foods. You need to do more breathing exercises. Movement is really, really good for activating it. It is hard. Like if you're depressed, I know how hard it is to just start. To just start making that movement. But you can eat a banana. That's going to help. So like if you can't do the hard thing, do the easy thing. So then the next one is your heart chakra. Your heart chakra connects the lower chakras to the upper chakras.
Okay.
So your heart chakra is, how do you love? How do you breathe? So it's represented by the color green. Literally any green leafy things, salad basically. Eat green things, it's good for your heart. It's just energetically.
And scientifically.
If you think of it, if we were to be represented by white light and we were to be put into a prism, the concept is that you get the rainbow. And so the rainbow is the representation of the different pieces of light which make up us, but broken into different pieces as if we were prismed.
Wow.
So the heart is the way that you love. If your heart is shut off, you're going to be an asshole.
Yeah.
So it's very important for you to eat your green vegetables and for you to watch the things that you say to other people, because your heart is probably not in alignment. You're not balanced.
Right.
And so then it connects to your throat.
Blueberries.
Your throat. Truth. It's like, how do you express yourself?
Yeah.
How do you say what you mean and mean what you say? Your third eye is your foresight. Can you see into the future? Can you plan for what's going to? Can you physically see you being that person in that future? Can you visualize it?
And what color is that one associated with?
That one is violet.
Violet. Oh boy, I'm colorblind. Violet. I'm going to struggle with that one.
Purple. It's purple.
Purple. I still struggle with purple. Oh boy, I'll figure it out.
The painting behind you is purple.
Well, there you go. I can't eat the painting though. I'm trying to think of foods that I could eat.
So, and then your crown is your connection to source, to God energy. Whether you receive these intuitive ideas and thoughts, sometimes you hear like little messages. It's your way to connect to your environment, to connect to the world that you are interacting with.
Yeah.
So it's easy for that to most people that one is not on at all.
Yeah.
Most people it's not on.
Yeah.
So I physically felt this energy weave through my chakras, activating them, and they would have that energetic feeling that you had between your hands.
Yeah.
In each and every single one of my centers, and they were all lit up at the same. I find it really difficult most of the time to have them all lit up. Like I can find like I would normally do a meditation and focus on one specific energy center. Because I mean, with practice, anything is easy. Yeah. But it was harder for me to get multiple of them to light up, to have a balanced energy system.
Yeah.
And because I had such a lovely interaction with my friend, I think that had balanced myself out just enough for me to have that experience. So I felt the weaving all the way up to my crown. And the only thing that I did was try to just keep it as long as I could.
Yeah.
But once I had it, I was like, oh my goodness, I did it.
Yeah.
I did the thing that I've been reading about for years. I didn't believe in it. I experienced it. I believe it now.
Yeah.
And since then, there's been some drama in my life, but I feel like I've been extremely level-headed for the drama that I've gone through.
Yeah.
And it might be because of this experience.
Wow.
That I just feel more secure, more grounded, and more sure of who am I.
How long ago was that you had that experience?
That was on March 4th, 2021.
March 4th. Wow. Fascinating. It took years to get there. I've heard of Kundalini, but never in that frame. I always thought it was a type of yoga that you did for some reason. There
are yoga poses to help you activate it.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm confusing. I'd also heard that there was a certain type of like Kundalini yoga that if you practice enough and you did enough, you could actually have like a DMT experience through that. That's my only tie. I've just heard people on podcasts talk about this before, but I've never actually looked into it myself or tried any of it.
I think if I had done the yoga poses in a specific order,
right,
and I had done it almost religiously, that you can get to that point. I've actually had moments where I was completely sober, and I still hallucinated.
Wow. Through yoga or through meditation?
I'm gonna be honest. It was after sex.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's, if you want to talk spiritual experiences, like that's one of the closest we can get without, a lot of work. I mean, you can have a spiritual experience through a million different things, but most of them come with a lot of work. But that one is kind of a evolutionarily inbuilt spiritual experience for the human, right? Like that makes a lot of sense.
There are a lot of different ways that you can have sex, and that's fine. I did find. Sorry, the cats are arguing.
It's all good. Gotta love the kitties.
They're just teasing each other.
Yeah.
I do find that there was a period of time where I was more careless with my body and the way that I would interact with people sexually. I do feel like that was a trauma response to some other things that I had experienced.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of women have had some sort of sexual assault in their lives, and it does affect the way that you can emotionally connect to another person.
For sure.
So the point in my life where I felt that I couldn't actually emotionally connect to another person, but I still wanted to physically connect to another person. So I was not as conscious and not as aware of how I was behaving or what I was doing, but there was a
sounds like you're saying mom.
She's in heat.
Oh.
He's probably calling for a potential boyfriend in the hallway.
We're on the right subject then.
We are, yeah, she knows what we're talking about, maybe. But I actually got a tattoo of a naked woman that has demon horns. And I attached this, like, it was almost like a sexual obsession of like whether I could have someone or not. It was a weird game that I was playing with other people that was definitely not healthy. And I got this tattoo on my leg, and I had attached, some people would call it like a succubus, an energetic demon that's just sexually there to steal from you. And so I attached my feelings of this succubus idea into the tattoo. And when the tattoo healed, I actually didn't feel that same trauma response to sex. I had then decided, I was like, oh, so I only want it with somebody that I actually genuinely love and that I want to be with.
Right.
And so I had a partner, and he was the only person that I was with. And through the time that I was with him, I did receive like a lot of healing naturally, because there was no external energies. Like when you sleep with someone, that person has all kinds of energies. And if they carry burdens, you have that energetic exchange with them, you are going to receive part of their burdens. You're at least going to feel it.
Yeah.
You may not even know where it's coming from. I had really bad anxiety when I was just kind of going out to a lot of parties and then having one night stands.
Yeah.
I was so anxious and panicky. And I had no idea that it was likely because of the energy I was carrying from the other person that I barely knew.
Yeah.
And usually I would pick someone that I had at least seen a couple times.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of times where I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I could feel like the existential dread building up in my body. Like,
wow,
something isn't right. And I don't know, for some people, polyamory is a thing for them and they like it. But I recognize that for me, I'm very sensitive to energies. I'm very sensitive to the way that other people interact with me. And while I can hold my ground, I'm more picky and choosy with the way that I want to experience life and have my energy experience. So at this point in my life, there's only one person that I'm willing to sleep with. And I'm actually not even interested in another person, because the way that our interaction is, it feels very pure to me. And it genuinely is just us being grateful to be with each other, just to have a moment to spend like an authentic, non-judgmental moment. And it's not even about just to have the orgasm. I feel like a lot of people, the end game is the orgasm.
Yeah.
I think our experience is like to connect. At least that is what it is from my side.
Yeah. Fascinating.
And there really is no deeper connection than to have a sexual connection with someone. So I ended up changing my own beliefs over time, from being like, I can do whatever I want, to me being more careful and more selective and deciding like, I actually don't need to get the external validation from another person anymore. That the only kind of sexual experience I'm willing to have at this point is a more intimate tantric experience with
deeper,
somebody.
Yeah. I see that. I'm curious to ask, apart from like the physical act and like choosing a person to be with, you seem to be very in touch with your own sexuality, just in like the way you present yourself too. And I feel like you always seem to have, I don't even know how to word it, but I just feel like I always get a sense, like a vibe from you, that you know what you have. And I feel like so many girls, when they post things that are maybe a bit sexual, they give off a different vibe. It's almost like a look at me vibe kind of thing. And it changes a little bit of how you perceive it, or at least how I perceive it when I see other people do it. But I never see that from you. And I feel like what I might not be completely understanding it well enough to articulate what I'm feeling in that, but what I can put it down to is I feel like it's the people where I can genuinely believe that they are in touch with their own sexuality and understand it and have sat with it and aren't just doing it for that validation. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
if I'm explaining this well enough, but I'm curious to see if you agree with that, if you feel that too, and if that evolved over time, and if kind of what you've learned through like the physical acts and actual like physical sexuality, how that has in turn changed your understanding of your own sexuality and just kind of how you almost like how you carry yourself and how you present yourself and like the beautiful modeling you do and all that stuff. And I've told you a million times, I just love how you photograph yourself, right? You do amazing shoots, but I always tell you, like, I think you do better shooting it yourself. You have such a good understanding of, how to make yourself look a certain way. And I'm just curious if that changed with all that understanding and change that you went through on the physical side, if that changed kind of the non-physical side and how you carry yourself sexually.
I definitely think that it had a huge effect.
Yeah.
Like for a long time, I did use sex as a way to validate myself,
Mhm.
validate my worth
For
to
sure.
other people
Yeah.
in society. And so while I was having one night stands, that was a point where I couldn't fulfill myself, not sexually, but like in many forms of my life, I felt empty.
Yeah.
And so in a way for me to feel like I was valuable,
Mhm.
I convinced myself that if somebody would just take me home for a night, that then I was valuable. And that was like a value system that I had created for myself. And what I see, like, I know what you mean by the girls that post sexual images of themselves. Like, sometimes I post sexual images of myself, but it's not for, like, I don't care what anyone says about me.
And that comes through.
And I think that's the difference is that you can feel that my intention is for me to save this photo so that how many years later I can look back and go, that was me. At that point, that's where I was. That's who I was. My social media is kind of like a little time capsule for myself.
Yeah.
Whatever is in my mind at the time, what am I experiencing? What am I going through? What am I thinking?
Yeah.
What am I feeling?
Yeah.
So it's like a way for me to kind of like create a time capsule for myself so I can go back. You can go back in my photos. You can go back to the beginning at 2012 and you can see different facial expressions, the way that I carry myself, the way that I dress, the way that I do my makeup, the types of people I hung around. You can see that the way that I was behaving was definitely, I want to say, weak. Because I relied so much on what other people thought of me.
Yeah.
My identity was only valid when another person validated.
Right.
At some point through my journey with my sexuality, I recognized I don't need another person to validate my worth. I am valuable as my own, whether I'm with somebody, whether I'm not, there is nothing that can tell me what my worth is because I have put it on myself.
Yeah.
And I think these women, I actually really wish that they would do is to have a kind of like a little depressive episode like we've had where you lock yourself away for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you just think,
oh, poor little kitty.
She's an old woman. Everything makes her upset. But when you have that time to pull away from your friends, your family, like I'm not as close with my family as I wish I was, but I also wish that I had different members in my family to be close to instead of the ones that I have. So when you're constantly being belittled by the community that you're in, that is not going to help your sexuality. That's not going to help your confidence. Like, I actually had somebody tell me this year while I was working on Virgin River, and they said, well, I don't have your confidence. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because sometimes I see myself as the little kid version of me, and the little kid version of me is very shy and very quiet and very careful not to irritate anybody. It's a very, very cautious version of myself. And so when somebody said, like, I can't be as confident as you, I kind of get pulled back and think, like, how far have I healed? become this version of myself, to not be belittling myself over little bumps in the road, to stand tall and know that my voice means something, that my values mean something, and they don't have to do anything to you, but it means something to me, and I'm not hurting anyone, so I don't see anything wrong with the way that I'm expressing myself.
Right. Which sounds so easy, but it's so difficult to do. Like in a completely different way, but I think everybody struggles with that, of just, being who you are, unapologetically, and not worrying about who you're going to rub the wrong way or any of that. And to live by your values, as long as you're not hurting anybody. Right. And that is, it sounds so simple, so cliche, but really at the end of the day, it's one of the hardest things anyone can do. Oh, like I said, yeah, you can go grab her. We're a pet friendly podcast here. I've mentioned it many times. It's been many a time that my dog has been a guest star. Wonder if I can make it look like I have antlers. Oh, for people listening right now, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Oh, look at the kitty.
Oh. She's definitely in heat, so she's like freaking out a little bit.
Yeah, she just wants some.
She's gonna be okay.
Oh, you just need to find some male cats in the apartment. They're roam free.
We don't have some babies.
Yeah. Hey, have you ever said no to kittens? Have you seen how cute they are?
No, I couldn't say no. That's how I ended up with this one.
Very fair. That is a good point. I did not think through. Well played. Well played.
Well, I mean, my friend was like, "Hey, I don't want my kitten anymore. I can't keep it. I'm gonna put it on Craigslist." And I was like, "No, you're not. Yeah. I'm buying that kitten off of you. I don't care." I mean,
how long have you had cats?
My whole life.
Your whole life you've had cats. So
whole life.
You had like family cats. When did you get your first cat that was yours?
I was 18. I moved out of my house.
Got a tattoo and a cat.
I got a tattoo and a kitten. Yes, he was adorable, little Charlie.
Yeah.
He only lived for like 2 years. He had some really bad health issues, so he actually passed away in my arms in 2014. In 2014, my grandfather also passed away, who was like my main father figure.
Yeah.
Like if I thought that there was like an ideal kind of man in the way that he would interact with his family, my grandfather would have been my representation of that.
Wow.
So when he passed, I was already really heartbroken.
Yeah.
And then he passed in April of 2014. And then my kitten had passed away actually on Remembrance Day in 2014. So there was a parade with bagpipes in front of my house while I'm sitting there after I had taken my cat to get cremated.
It's heartbreaking.
I was not okay.
No, like I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Pets they're family. They're literally little extensions of ourselves.
And the taboo that people feel, and I think it's so silly. People feel like they shouldn't feel the mourning of a person when they lose a pet. And I see this all the time. I see this a lot of men that they don't want to admit it. And we had a guy that we work with, and he had a dog for a long time, and it just passed. And I just randomly ran into him. We're not from the same place, but just saw him, and just to have that conversation and say like, "Hey, I'm so sorry to hear," and just that. And you could tell he wanted to do the thing of like, yeah, like I shouldn't be this sad. And I know it's just a dog. And I said like, no, like I've been there before. We have all been there before. Everybody understands that pain. It's losing a family member. It is just as hard as losing, a person. And I just think it's so silly that we all know that, and we've all been there before, but we all put on this facade of, oh, well, I can't be as sad as I feel because that sadness is
it's reserved for humans only.
Exactly, which is such a silly thing to think, but it's so pervasive, and you see it all over. Every time I see someone in that situation, I just want to tell them like, you are right to feel everything you're feeling right now. There's nothing wrong with it. This is completely natural. You'd be crazy if you didn't, right? Like, it's just like losing a family member.
I had people actually tell me like, it was just a cat. Get over it. But honestly, like, it died in my arms.
Oh,
He died in my arms. I literally felt the moment that
oh,
he was no longer there. And I
oh,
swear I felt like you could feel it leave. Like when you experience death on that level,
yeah.
you need to give yourself space to grieve. And
Mhm.
I had people criticize me and be like,
Yeah.
get over yourself. What the
Mhm.
hell is wrong? I am a very emotional person. I'm a very
Yeah.
feely kind of person. And in order for me to process what I'm going through, I need to feel it. And it took
Yeah.
a minimum 6 months before I was actually capable of interacting with people
Yeah.
at a more like balanced level. Like
Mhm.
I was not okay. Like
Yeah.
you could have just written me off and be like,
Mhm.
she's
Should stop talking about sad kitty stories, Mom. Enough.
I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah. I'm going through enough at this point. Can you quit it? Oh, it's fine.
She's like, I have enough feels too. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a question about art, and I'm not sure quite how to frame it because I feel like I don't have enough knowledge of art to frame it the right way, but I'm curious about what working on a piece of art gives you, and if different mediums, like say, like doing a small oil painting versus like a big mural, do different types of art give you different feelings? Like, do you get something different from doing, maybe building a set and painting that versus like a more intimate, like small piece? I'm just curious what you get out of it. If you can put that to words, I know that's a very personal thing probably. And if there's different things, or is it just a different take or a different flavor of the same thing that you get?
It's a great question. And I do feel like for many artists, the way that they respond would be very different. So I'm definitely going to take my own approach to it.
Yeah.
Through different mediums, I feel like I'm able to express myself differently.
Mm.
For example, when I'm painting a set, I need to be very aware that this is not my dream.
Yeah.
This is not my project.
Mm-hmm.
This is not mine. And most of the projects, if not all of them, they all will get torn down at some point. At some point, they're going in the garbage.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but your favorite movies and TV shows are all in the garbage. And that's part of the job.
Yeah.
Somebody has a dream, an idea, a concept, and they give it to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm the one that's supposed to make it a reality. So that is extremely fulfilling to me, that I can fill that role for another artist that has the visualization of what they want, and I get to be the physical hands that bring it into reality. Yeah. That is very fulfilling, but it doesn't allow me to express my creativity in the same way as my personal projects. Right. Murals push me to work larger and faster than I normally would. A lot of my work is actually like smaller scale. Yeah. I find with my watercolor and ink paintings, I tend to get more symbolic. I get deeper into the meaning, and I kind of pull out, I want to say, like ancestral knowledge, things that I know but I don't know, but maybe somebody in my family at some point would have known and understood. Yeah.
And that comes out through the art.
There was a scientific paper that came out that I think it was like 20 something generations of DNA that we carry in our bodies. And if you believe in the collective consciousness, as I do, with the Trinity knot is also a representation of the collective consciousness. It's being able to tap into a thought or an idea regardless of time and space, because time and space are just constructs. They're not actually real things. There is actually no space between you and I. Even though we are not in the same room. Yeah. There is no space between you and I, and there is no time difference between you and I. So by being able to tap into the God source, you can also tap into the energy that is in your physical cells, that is information. There are people that have fears of swimming in the ocean that live in a landlocked area, nowhere near an ocean, and sometimes generations. But, for example, when a lot of the slaves were brought over from Africa to the Americas, if you misbehaved on the boat, you were tossed into the ocean. Oof. So it's an extremely real fear for the slaves on that boat to then be afraid of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they get brought inland, if that ancestor saw somebody else get thrown off into the ocean and eaten by a shark, that fear transfers down to your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, and you become the ancestral memory of that experience. We have these reactions to things because of things that our ancestors went through. In the same way that birds know where to migrate, that information is built into their bodies, into their system. It's a understanding of what has happened before, and the information doesn't leave. You can tap into your own ancestors. You might need to do quite a bit of meditation and reflection. And some of the information you might get might seem really skewed or blurry, or like it takes time to get a really clear understanding of what it is.
Right.
But because I like spending so much time alone, I kind of do it for fun.
Yeah.
And so when I'm connecting to my paintings, I'm trying to pull different subconscious understandings or beliefs. And whether it's the drowning, you can also say for snakes and spiders, we live in Canada.
Yeah.
There are no snakes and spiders that we need to be afraid of. How many people do you know are afraid of snakes and spiders?
A lot.
And that's because likely somebody in their history was in their ancestry, at least somebody in their ancestry saw somebody else, or somebody in their ancestry actually died from it.
Yeah. Wow.
So that memory would be carried along with you in your physical cells. That fear gets transferred into you. Like every year I look at myself and I'm like, I look so much like my mom every year. And it gets weirder and weirder because I want to be my own person.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, hey mom, how's it going?
Yeah.
Like I see you. So it's there's the ancestry that lives in us is very deep and strong, and I like to express that through my ink and watercolor paintings as I get deeper into the symbolism.
Yeah.
But then there's another side of my art that is abstract. My acrylic abstract paintings are more of an emotional release. It's kind of like, can I put this feeling onto something, and can I make you feel the feeling that I have?
Cool. And then of all those that give you all those different things, do you have a personal favorite of those that you like, if you had to just pick one for the rest of your life, do you have one, or is it like picking children where it's too hard to pick?
Well, I'm for one glad that I don't have children to pick between.
Fair enough.
Don't tell the cats. And I feel like I would probably end up, if I absolutely had to. Yeah. It would have to be my ink and watercolor paintings.
Yeah. That's the one.
It would have to. Yeah. Because I feel like I get the most fulfillment out of those ones. Like when I actually complete one of those, I feel my own value go up. Yeah. Because I feel like I've unlocked like a new understanding of myself.
Yeah. Interesting. I feel like if I was to get something like that out of just knowing myself and how obsessive I am, I feel like I would never stop painting. If I felt like I would unlock something each and every time, I feel like that would be addictive, and it'd be hard to stop.
It is. And honestly, I feel like every kind of painting that I normally do, whether it's on a film set or it's for myself or it's for somebody else, I do recognize that I learn new parts of myself with every project. And like every film project is completely different as well. Like I was on Charmed season 2 and 3, which is a very like witchy show. Actually, they use the Celtic Trinity knot in the symbolism for the show. So I have a coffee mug that says Charmed with the symbol on it. That's the same symbol on my arm.
Cool.
And it's like, it was kind of cool because that's how I got into film, and it made me feel like that's one of those synchronicities that tells me, oh, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah,
this is
you're
the
on the right
direction
path.
I'm going. And I actually had someone ask me about synchronicities recently, and they're like, how do you know what a synchronicity is?
You feel it.
And it comes down to, it's a thing that you gave a meaning to. Like, if you and I had like an inside joke about a cloud,
Yeah.
and then you see a cloud and you think of me,
Mm-hmm.
that is the connection that is there.
Mm-hmm.
The universe, people will say they'll see like repeating numbers or like a feather, like a lot of different things. As a human collective, a lot of things have a symbolic meaning.
Right.
So a feather is a connection to spirit, is a symbolic meaning that many of us feel that feathers represent like a high flying energy that we don't really know how to connect with, but we know is there. And so a feather that has fallen off of a bird is kind of like a sign of that high flying energy that we can't really understand, but it's showing us that it's there.
Right.
But if you don't have that that connection to a feather, you may not see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the same way that someone tells you to look for yellow punch bugs, and you're like, I haven't seen a yellow punch bug in forever. And then all of a sudden you see them everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's because you've tuned into that channel.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start seeing clouds and you start thinking about me, it's because you and I are tuned into the same channel.
Yeah.
Because we've created an energetic channel where we can interact with.
Yeah.
Interesting. And actually, in that moment, if we are genuinely connected, I might think, hey, I should message Nick.
Yeah.
And be like, how's it going? And you'd be like, I was just thinking about you. And that's how that collective consciousness works.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's not a yell. It's not somebody's yelling at you. Mm-hmm. Go text this person. It's not like that at all. It's like, hey, remember this?
Yeah.
Think about it. Maybe make an action on it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, maybe I should. And it's really quiet. It's really soft and gentle.
Yeah. And
those are synchronicities leading to.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes even the first one doesn't, or you hear the first one, it's kind of a whisper, but you don't take action on it. And then there's a second and a third. And sometimes it's only on the third one that I've gotten like 3 different signs that I need to, text Denique today. And I ignored the first 2. Okay, this is the third one. That happens to me all the time where it's just, or you mean to take action on the first one, you forget to, and then some other force or some other thing kind of gives you that little bit of a nudge.
You were gonna do something, remember?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
And so it's like, connect with that person. You haven't talked to that person in forever. Mm-hmm. It's time for you to connect with them. Or often what you can see is like parents. I know a girl, and she told me a story once where I can't remember if it was her mom or her dad, mm-hmm. but they had a nightmare about an accident. And so they said, please don't go to this thing because there's going to be an issue. And I've actually experienced this with multiple different people.
Yeah.
I've seen this in many people where the parent has a nightmare and they ask their kid, please don't do this. And I've mm-hmm. seen both. I've seen the kid respect their parents' wishes mm-hmm. and something happened to the other people that were out there. Mm-hmm. And I've also seen where the kid didn't respect the wishes and something happened to the kid.
Yeah.
That paternal, maternal instinct, mm-hmm. that line of connection is very strong.
Yeah.
And you can build something just as strong with somebody who mm-hmm. you didn't come from.
Yeah.
But naturally, that is one of the strongest mm-hmm. ones to practice with. I know with my parents, with my mom, specifically with my mom, I can feel her and I can hear her.
Yeah.
I know like, oh, she misses me. It's time for me to call my mom. She needs me to call her. Like it's time. Something's going on. And sometimes when I call, they'll be like, you know what? We were just having a conversation about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're just reminiscing about this one time where you did this thing and we kind of miss having you around. And I'm like, oh, well, let's chat.
Yeah.
So it's whether you want to be tuned in. It's kind of mm-hmm. like you have your own radio station with your mom.
Yeah.
And you can only between the two of you are you going to get the signals. But mm-hmm. we're like radio stations anyway. We can tune into anything.
Exactly.
So you can tune into your ancestors. You can mm-hmm. tune into the earth. Mm-hmm. You can tune into yourself. You can tune into a friend that's on the other side of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on whether you're able to tune into it.
Yeah.
And
how
whether
much practice you put in.
Yeah.
That
But it's
helps a lot.
possible.
It is.
Like naturally as humans, we have it to connect with each other. We're meant to connect with each other.
Yeah. That's all we're meant to do is connect with each other. And really at the end of the day, like building those connections and that's what, grows that connected consciousness is, it's all connected to begin with, but you forge bigger bonds and you make that web stronger and you're building it out. And as, humans and the race of humans grows, and the connections between, the world and the trees and the grass, that all grows too. And it's just an ever growing connection. And that's, really, like, at the end of the day, we've already mentioned it in the last podcast a ton and a couple of times in this one, that's that you can name it a million things. You can call that God, you can call that the universe, you can call that, yin and yang and all these different things that are all different concepts. It's
you
all
can
the same.
call it Baba for all I care. You can literally call it anything. Just as long as you're aware that it's all the same thing.
It's all about understanding the meaning and putting yourself in the right place. No, that's beautiful. I love talking to you, Denique. I always enjoy it, whether it's like this, whether it's just, Instagram DMs about silly things or whatever, lots of time it isn't silly things. I feel like me and you don't communicate too much on it.
We're pretty serious actually most of the time, which is weird because I don't feel like I'm really that serious of a person anymore. And I know that you're not. So the fact that we keep it pretty professional most of the time is like, it's kind of out of character for us.
It is. I feel like it's just, I don't get to have the conversations that I know we can have. I don't get to have with very many people. So if we are talking, it's such a treat to be able to go to those deeper layers and have these really deep conversations that, are a little bit more serious, because I don't get that with very many other people. So it's like, well, I got to take advantage of it when it's there. Right. But I do enjoy it so much, and I'm so enjoy having you in my life. And it's so much fun to watch who you're growing to be, from who I knew in junior high and high school to who you are a couple months ago when we talked the first time to who you are now. It's just so much fun. I enjoy it so much. Thank you for giving me your valuable time to sit here and, banter back and forth with me. I really enjoy it. And I just, I hope we can do this many, many more times in the future. And I just love who you are. You're a great human.
I would really love to do more of these because I feel like you allow me to get to the deeper parts of the conversation. You ask questions that I don't feel like I can talk about on a regular day-to-day basis. Like a lot of these things are kind of musings that I keep to myself while I'm working on my art, or I'm often in my own world, so I don't get to communicate these. They're written in journals all over. I have books everywhere, but they're not vocalized. So you allowing me to have this opportunity to kind of speak about my belief systems, my ideas, my ideologies, or the phenomenons that I am interested in, regardless of whatever it is. I'm just grateful to have a friendship like we have, and that we were able to build it and continue to build it. I'm just happy to be here, man.
Oh, so am I. That's a perfect way to end it. Thank you so much for being here, Denique. We'll definitely talk soon.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Bye. Boom. Another episode in the books. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was probably, as I, kind of talked about mental health, this was the episode I recorded just before the one I released with Skylar, on mental health. Just because the tattoo competition, which please, right after, if you enjoyed this episode, please go vote for Denique. But this is probably the last episode I was recording when I was just kind of in my big funk, and I hope you guys can't tell. I hope you guys don't hear it in my voice, but definitely is a reminder just of the highs and lows, and just how much it's great to talk about your mental health. Having that episode with Skylar where we really talked about depression and what we're both going through and just kind of commiserated together, it really was helpful and kind of put me on a much better path for the next couple of weeks here that I've been going through. And that opened up to this awesome opportunity that I have upcoming that, like I said in the intro, I can't exactly tell you what it is, but it's just nice to have the visual and audio proof that things things always get better. And even if you're in kind of a dark place, that there's always something coming around the corner that can pull you out of it. And a lot of that is doing the work and making that change yourself. So you open yourself up to those opportunities. But just thought it was a nice thing to mention. It made me happy. And I like to pass those things off and not just use these intros and outros to bitch about all the things going wrong. It's nice to add in the positive things too. So take that as you will. Hoping you guys have an awesome week. Hopefully you kick some ass, you get outside, enjoy that warmth. If you're in my neck of the woods and you just dealt with weeks and weeks and weeks of -40, it felt like, enjoy this warmth. Don't wear your new shoes because you're going to get soaked, because that's what happens. That's the price you pay for a little bit of warmth in northern Alberta, is all the snow melts and it turns to slush and you get all wet. But I would take that other than freezing my tootsies and fingies off, which may not be an issue a week from now, but maybe I've said enough. All right. You guys enjoy this episode. Pass it on to a friend. Do all those things I always talk about. Social media, all that jazz. Love ya. Talk to you soon. Bye.